Hello, everyone. This is episode 7 of the Full Metal Beavers Patreon podcast. I'm Dr. French, and this time I'm joined with a very special guest, Reda Gonsalves. Hi, Reda.
Hi, Dr. French.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I've had a pretty slow day. I fell asleep in AP Calc today, but besides that, I'm pretty good.
What time do you have AP Calc?
It's like third, fourth period, so like 10 to 11 a.m. And it's like really early in the morning. I prefer to do math like around this time, 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Because it's just better for my mind. So when I'm doing it in the morning, I just really want to sleep.
It's so difficult to do math, science, any of those like high functioning subjects in the morning.
Yeah, and I had physics first period, so it really wasn't it for me.
I remember that. And I remember telling your class that having a physics class first period and then you have an exam first period, like that's the worst. It really like dictates your whole day.
Yeah, because like I remember one time, I think it was the first exam or one of the first exams, and I knew I failed it. As soon as I finished it, I knew I failed. So I left the class and I went to Spanish, and I was just like, my entire day was ruined, and I was crying because I was like, I failed that exam.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry. I think everyone failed that exam.
Probably.
So you are a senior now, correct?
Yes.
How does that feel being a high school senior?
It honestly doesn't feel like I'm actually a senior. I genuinely feel like I'm still a freshman that just walked into high school. Like, I remember when I was in sophomore year and I felt like senior year was miles away from me and I didn't have to overstress it or overthink it. But now that I'm here, it doesn't even feel like it's real. Right now, I think it's kind of stressful because of like college applications and everything. But I think after January ends, it's going to slow down and it's going to hit me that I'm a senior a little bit more. And I'm going to like get to enjoy being a senior rather than having the stress of being a senior.
In addition to being like having the stress of being a senior, what about the stress of being like a COVID senior, like being a senior during this pandemic? What's that like?
I think it's really stressful because I think there's a lot of miscommunication between students and teachers because we're all just trying to learn. And it's just very annoying because none of us know what's going to happen next month or in 3 months or like by the end of the year. We don't know if we're going to have a prom or a proper graduation. But even besides that, everyday things are so much harder. Like teachers try to assign group work and then there are just some students that because it's COVID, they just don't care.
Yeah.
And then your group work just doesn't get done and you get penalized for it. So I think it's just a lot to learn. Some parts of it can actually be fun because I know that when I didn't want to go to school some days and I just wanted to stay at home and go to sleep, I can sort of do that. I can like stay in my bed and do all my classes and then just take a quick nap after and do all my F&B stuff. So it's convenient sometimes and inconvenient other times.
Do you feel like one of your favorite activities is just to nap or sleep or cuddle in your bed?
Yeah, I remember in 10th or 11th grade, there was like a joke that I was like, my talent was sleeping because I could sleep anywhere. I remember once I was like just sitting on a hard floor and I just fell asleep for an hour and I woke up sitting in that same position. And I have the coolest dreams because I can like sort of lucid dream.
Oh, wow.
And I can like sort of dictate what I want my dreams to do. I remember I had this really vivid dream and it's like an episode. So it started 1 month, continued the next month, and finished another month later. And I wrote about this for one of my college essays.
Yeah.
And it was basically me in this dystopian world. And it was a flat earth world. I have no idea why.
All right. So you're secretly a flat earther.
Yeah. And then at the edge of the world was Los Angeles, and I was in Los Angeles because I took an airplane there because it's a flat earth, so it was like 2 minutes. And then there was dinosaurs at the edge of the earth. And they were just standing there. But next to it, which is like the actual important part of the dream, is this big wall, and it's made out of crystal or something. And when you look into it and you touch it, your doppelganger comes out. And my doppelganger came out and then punched me to the floor.
Oh no.
And then took my place in the world. And I was like, okay. And then in the next episode, I was fighting with my doppelganger, and she said, oh, you're like, I'm the version of you that you want to be. And I was like, but you're evil. So do I want to be evil? And in the last episode, I pushed her back into the wall.
Wow. There was one episode of this podcast I interviewed Anupa, and we talked about like what would a movie about your life be. This is really interesting. Now that you're talking about episodes, this would be cool if this was like an anime or some type of like mini series on Netflix.
Yeah, I was thinking about that so much, of this actually being real, because I started thinking like, did I see this in like a movie or something? Why are my dreams like this?
The idea of a doppelganger, when you were mentioning about the evil version of you kind of taking your place, it reminds me of the movie Us. Have you seen that movie?
I've seen, you have to pay for that. I've seen like movie commentaries on it, so I know like the entire premise, and I know like the main plot lines, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, there's a similar thing there where kind of like the doppelganger. Spoiler alerts for any listeners who haven't seen Us and wants to apologize. The doppelganger basically takes over the normal people. They come out of like the sewers or something, and they take over people. They start killing people. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, and there was a twist at the end that reminded me of my dream, and I hope this isn't a spoiler, but basically the doppelganger was that real life version of her, and then her version was what people thought was a doppelganger, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And then I was like, maybe in my dream, I wasn't actually the one pushed back into the wall, but it was like my doppelganger pushed me and took my place forever. But I don't know. I haven't had that dream again since.
Do you believe that dreams have a significant meaning, like in people's lives?
I definitely do. When I was younger, I used to have a lot of like nightmares. Mm-hmm. So I had a nightmare of like my sister killed everybody in the world, and then she came to kill me. So now I have
your older sister,
dream
right?
catchers. Yeah, my older sister. I have dream catchers all around my bedroom because I genuinely believe like this old woman, I think she was Mexican, and my mom worked for her. And she handmade me this dream catcher, my first dream catcher. And she was like, this will control your dreams, and this will like take out all the bad dreams. And for like a whole 5 years after she gave that to me, I did not have one bad dream. And I've never had a bad dream since I've had like
the dream catcher.
A dream. Yeah.
Wow. So maybe they work. I actually owned, I made my own dream catcher back in second grade. I was living in Pennsylvania at the time. And that was one of the field trips that we went to. And we got to make our own dream catchers. They were really, really small, but they were still cool. I don't have it anymore. I started having nightmares again. That's really interesting, Reda, that you can somewhat control your dreams, because the dreams have like a continuation. Do you usually dream like that?
Usually don't dream with continuations, but I usually can kind of tell my mind what I want to dream about in that night. Mm-hmm. It might not be always, but usually if I just think about something a lot and I really say to myself, I want to dream about this, I'll dream about it. I had a dream that I wanted to like dream about being with Timothy Chalamet.
Oh my God.
But then I was like I was in a grocery store with him, and he brought me bread, which I think is close enough.
Generation Zers do this thing, like they can manifest things into reality. Do you ever feel like you're doing that? You're trying to manifest?
I do that with my friends all the time. We always say that like we should manifest it. So we've been manifesting Biden's presidency.
Oh my goodness.
But we've also sort of been manifesting. We were talking about this case with these two brothers that murdered their parents. Mm-hmm. And then 2 days later, this YouTuber that we really like made a video about that same case. And then we started seeing it more everywhere we went. And we were like, we're the main characters in this story. Like, we manifested this. It just felt really funny.
There's actually a phenomenon in psychology. I think it's called the recency effect or the frequency effect, one of those things. If you've ever recognized, like, let's say you bought a new coat and then all of a sudden you start seeing other people wearing that same coat or that same brand that you just bought, something like that. It's close to this idea of manifestation, which is super interesting to me. So that the last thing I want to talk about that dream, you mentioned that doppelganger maybe wanted to like take over you and kind of take over your life, but then you defeated this doppelganger. How does that storyline reflect your current life or your future, you think?
Well, I feel like the point in my life that I was then, I really didn't know who I was. Like, I was so confused like what I should do next in my life when I had that dream. And when I had it, I took a lot of time to do a lot of self-reflection to see who I am. So I saw my doppelganger as evil, and I was like, am I an evil person? So I sort of took time to reflect, and I've like cut back a lot. I sort of eat meat less, I shop less, I give back more, because I was thinking like, I don't want to be my doppelganger, so I want to be like the opposite of that. So like my mom and we now give to this charity for animals, because I just feel better like doing that as a person. I just do little things, and I always remember that dream because I always think I don't want to be like her.
Interesting. Do you feel like your doppelganger represents like an old part of you, or do you think it represents like a person, like a real person that you're just like, I don't want to be like this person?
I think it represents an old part of me, because in middle school, I think I was kind of self-centered. I was very, like, everything I did was to benefit myself. I was also very sad in middle school. So I always just tried to find ways to make myself feel better. And I thought that if I would make myself feel better, that would make everything in general better. And I realized that if I make other people feel better, it makes me and everything around me feel better. Yeah,
that's awesome, Reda. That's a great philosophy. The charity that you and your mother are supporting, what's the name of that?
ASPCA.
ASPCA. So thanks. So that way any listeners can support the ASPCA. And they're pretty big. They're not a little charity. They're a huge agency.
They're pretty big.
Yeah, that help a lot of animals everywhere. You have an animal. You have a dog, Luna, part of your family. Can you talk about her for a little bit?
Okay, so I would say she's my best friend. Again, I had a really hard time in middle school. I was kind of sad, and I sort of didn't feel like purpose because I just did the same thing every single day, and just going to school didn't seem like enough to me. It didn't seem like it filled that void. But one day my dad just brought home like this little tiny thing that was the size of my hand, and it felt like my entire world was just in her, because I would come to school, come home from school just to take care of her.
Yeah.
I would surround everything around her. Like, my happiness was like whatever she felt. So I definitely think she's a big part of my life, because without her, I would probably be really sad. I like describe her sometimes as like my emotional support dog, because we're sort of there for each other. For example, this morning, I was just like so kind of stressed about school in general, and she just like came up to me and she just gave me cuddles the entire morning and stayed with me through all of my classes.
Yeah.
So I think she's just a big part of my life, and she's literally so sweet, but sometimes she's kind of annoying.
How old is she now?
She's 5, turning 6 in November.
Aww. Awesome. That's a nice age. Well, wishing a happy and very long life for Luna. Hopefully
Thank you.
Continues to be an awesome dog. So you mentioned like Luna basically gave you purpose from, I guess, like middle school to high school, somewhere between that. Is that when you got her, you said?
Yeah, I got her around 6th grade.
Okay. is there anything else that you find like is giving you purpose? Or you're like, oh, I'm doing this for this.
I guess there are little things. So, well, first, I'm a decently big advocate about climate change, like on social media. So I always try to like just share posts with people about climate change and like tell my friends. So, like, for example, I eat meat, but I don't eat it every single day because I feel like that's unhealthy and it's just immoral. So I always tell people that, you know, you can eat meat, just don't eat it every single day. And then I had somebody on social media trying to tell me that me not eating meat is hurting the environment and it's worse to eat plants. And then it was this whole conversation. I was like, what are you talking about? But that's like one thing that sort of gives me purpose in life, just educating other people. You know, sometimes it's hard to learn, but I think that if somebody is willing to explain it to you, it makes it easier. Also, I will say Full Metal Beavers gives me a lot of
There's
purpose.
Luna, I hear her.
Yeah, she's barking.
She wants to say something in the podcast.
Yeah, but nobody can understand her. I think Full Metal Beavers also gives me a lot of purpose because mainly it's all of my collaborators more than like learning about other things. I like teaching them.
Yeah.
And I like just being there for them because a lot of the time they just need to talk. They just need to like tell me what's going on in their lives, or sometimes they need help with homework, or sometimes they just need somebody to make them laugh throughout whatever is happening. So I really enjoy doing that. And then I guess it would also just be my friends give me a lot of purpose. I always feel like I have to give back to people so much, but then my friends give me so much love and so much kindness that I don't know, I just feel so loved.
That's awesome. You know, that's even, I don't know if this is a problematic statement, but that's like pretty privileged. Like to have that privilege of being, like in a good support group, being loved, being cared for, being able to say and receive, you know, that love and even adoration. You know, you're pretty much adored by a lot of people too, Reda. So that's pretty cool. And it's nice that you're like reciprocating that feeling too. So you kind of squash that doppelganger version of yourself that might be like, yes, keep giving me the attention. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like that though. Sometimes I feel like I'm being really narcissistic, like about things. And then when I feel like I'm being narcissistic, I give back to like people even more. I don't know. It's just like this constant cycle.
Interesting. But it's okay. You know, it's okay to like feel yourself a little bit. It's okay to like glow and boast and be proud. Just all the time though becomes obnoxious. And there's been some former members in this organization that are obnoxiously full of themselves. Actually, there's some alumni. And I think I have one that just comes to mind. I'm not going to say his name.
I know who you're talking about.
I'm not going to say his name, but I'm pretty sure the viewers can probably guess too. So let's talk about what you anticipate your college plans to look like. Where do you think you're going to be going? What do you think you want to be studying? And why?
Okay, so honestly, my top school is Middlebury because I'm trying to go to Middlebury through Posse.
Yeah.
And I really like Middlebury because it's, first of all, Vermont is gorgeous. And they have a really great environmental science program. And I really want to do something in environmental and political science.
Okay.
Because it's just something that I'm really interested in. And I just want to use my voice to be able to help everything around me. So I feel like Middlebury will really give me the stepping stone to be able to do that. And they have so many amazing courses and so many amazing opportunities and a great group of people that I would really like to be a part of. And I hope I get to go. I looked at some other schools because I feel like if I don't get to go to Middlebury, I feel very chained to New York City, even though when I was little, even now, I've always wanted to travel. I made this whole traveling plan with my friends. Like, we're going to go from South America to Europe to Asia. We're gonna see the entire world.
I love it.
And we're like making this, and we're finding the cheapest ways to do everything. And I just feel like when you're 18 or like 17, you're very young, bold, and you want to move now, because I feel like by the time I'm 27 or something, I'm gonna be too scared to leave. So I feel like Middlebury would also be like my stepping stone to seeing the world.
Yeah, it definitely will be. So I really hope you get into it. Posse is such a good opportunity. It will really expand your network. Middlebury College is even a great school to go to. I think I just looked it up. Just in terms of environmental science, it's within the top 10 schools for environmental science in America for 2021. And that's based on a lot of reviews and a lot of data. So the only thing, about Middlebury is that it's kind of expensive.
Yeah.
But hopefully Posse will help you out with some points there. Yeah. Hopefully. We actually have a former member that goes there, and someone who sat down and did an interview, I think episode 5, that was Mazur. And he's living his best life there now. So
I see his pictures on Instagram, and I'm just like, oh my God, I want to go there. Like every time I see his pictures, I'm like, that just makes me want to go even more.
Yeah, he's really happy. And I really encourage, again, this is a bit sometimes problematic because parents don't always agree, but I really encourage every single high school student that I come across, and especially the ones that come through Full Metal Beavers, to consider going away for college. It's such a different experience than, let's say, traveling from home. Right now, most people can't even do that because of COVID and everything's virtual and online. But it's just a better experience. You definitely get to live and try things out, and you learn about responsibility. Adults like to tell kids about, like, oh, you're going to have to learn some responsibility all the time. This is one of the ways. It's kind of like that cliched story of like the mama bird pushing the baby bird out of the nest, and hopefully it flies. And if it doesn't, well, yikes, have to hatch a new egg. But hopefully that bird, the baby bird, does learn how to flap its wings and fly. And that's, I think, what this experience is analogous to, just going away. Not to say there's anything wrong with staying in New York, but I definitely encourage it, and I really wish you the best of luck. I don't even think you need luck, Reda, because you're pretty, like, your resume, your skill set is pretty large, and I don't know, it's good. So I think that you have a high chance of getting it.
Yeah, I really, really hope I do, because I feel like I've also been prepping a lot for it. And Posse is one of the times I kind of feel narcissistic, because the whole time you just have to talk about yourself. Yeah. Which is like good, which is like you really hyping yourself up, because it was just like an hour of just me blabbing on and on about myself. And I was like, oh my God, shut up.
So, any of our listeners that are interested, like maybe even telling someone that they may know that could qualify for Posse, you guys can just go to thepossefoundation.org, and you'll be able to nominate someone, a student that you may know, that exhibits like good leadership, really well deserving of going into a good college. It's a great opportunity and great program. Reda, Posse is actually really known about leadership. So let's talk about your relationship with leadership. You're currently the director of the engineering department for Full Metal Beavers.
Yes.
Last year, you were the manager of the mechanical division, and the previous year, you were a prototyper, I think?
Yeah, I was a prototyper.
Okay, so talk about that. Let's talk about your journey from when you joined to now, and what leadership, like, what's your relationship with leadership?
Okay, so I guess I can start off from the beginning. So a little bit before I joined Full Metal Beavers, I definitely wouldn't see myself as a leader because I was just very shy and I kept a lot to myself because I didn't really like people. I just wanted to go through high school and finish it and move to Canada or France and just get out of America.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to speak to like another person. And then when I started going through high school, I started meeting like all of these amazing people. I know mainly Kelly and Ucha, I would say, because they joined in their freshman year and I joined in my sophomore year. And they would just tell me all of these like amazing things and all of these things that they've learned. And I think from the beginning of freshman year to the end, I saw them improve so much as people because I knew Ucha from middle school. And I always knew her as like this goofy, like very smart person. Yeah. But then by the end of freshman year, it was like she was still goofy and smart, like still who Ucha was. Yeah. But then she had like this confidence, like this aura about her that I was like, oh my God, she's amazing.
That's because she learned how to use an angle grinder and she was grinding things away.
And then with Kelly, she was just like, even though Kelly is to this day still a little bit more shy, sometimes I would hear her like snap back at people. Yes. I would hear her just like stand up for herself or just like speak her opinion. And I was like, I want to have that sense of confidence. So I joined in my sophomore year, and I like to think of my sophomore year, not that I peaked, but it was definitely a peak because I just remember that year as being amazing. Yeah. I was doing fencing. I had physics then. I joined Full Metal Beavers that year, and I just felt like I was doing so much, but I was never tired. I don't know what I was taking.
Were you napping back then?
No, it was crazy because I wasn't like napping, but I was just having normal sleeping schedules and I was just taking vitamins, and I don't know what happened, but I had a really good sophomore year. And the first couple of months, I didn't really feel like a leader. I just felt like a collaborator because I was really confused. I didn't know what was going on half the time. Yeah. I was still learning so much, and I'm so happy that I had just a group of people that were really nice. I think mainly Freddie. Freddie was always really nice to me, and he really took his time to explain things to me. Yeah. And I'm so grateful for that. By the way, Freddie was my manager at the time for the mechanical division. And when we went to the first competition, Freddie unfortunately couldn't come because of his grades.
Oh, yeah. He got suspended, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he got suspended from the team.
And then it was kind of looked on to me and Mo to sort of lead the mechanical division during that competition. And it was really hard, but it also gave me like this boost of like adrenaline or something because I felt really good. I felt really good communicating with other people and making decisions about the robot and what we should do. And I just felt like at a very high point in my life, and it made me feel really good. And then the next year when I became a manager, I thought that it would just be, again, at this high point in my life, that everything would be amazing. But then as I was going into the phases of being a manager, I think I tell a lot of people this. One thing that I did really wrong was I always felt like I had to live up to Freddie because in my eyes, Freddie is like so amazing. I think he's genuinely such an amazing person. And I was like, how am I going to live up to what Freddie is? Because I see him as such like an idol in my opinion.
Like the best mechanical manager.
Yeah, that's how I viewed Freddie. So I went into it and I thought, oh, I'm going to be able to do this. But I overestimated myself at some points, and then I underestimated myself. And I was just shaky in everything that I did. And it was also kind of hard to lead a group of boys because boys are just weird. Like, I can't explain it in any other way. Boys are just weird. To this day, boys are weird.
Yeah. And boys have always been weird.
Exactly.
They're also gross.
They are. And I didn't know how to function in that kind of environment for a long time. And it took me because I lost my manager position. And it took me a long time. Even when I lost it, I didn't understand why I necessarily lost it. Yeah. And I was just like so confused. But when I became a collaborator and because of COVID, I was able to reconnect with those same boys that I was leading, and I was able to become their friend and become their ally. And they also gave me a lot of advice of what I could do as a person and how I could better myself as a leader. And being a collaborator that has certain leadership tasks helped me to sort of grow into a better leader.
Yeah.
And then you told me that I was a candidate for being director, and I was honestly shocked because I thought MD Zaman was going to be the director, or Muhammad Salam.
Yeah.
So MD Zaman is the manager of the robotics division, and Salam is the director of programs. And I really thought it was going to be them, and I was just shocked. I was like, why is this me? Because I didn't feel like I didn't feel like I deserved it. I didn't feel like I was this right person.
Or even ready. Did you even feel ready?
No, I was like, I'm not ready for this because I felt like I just lost my manager position. Even though it was months ago, I felt like I just lost it. And it feels like a week ago. And I was like, why is this being given to me when there are like better people? And then, I don't know, when I just started becoming a director, I just stopped thinking about other people. I stopped thinking about being Freddie or being Kelly or being Mazur or Cody. And I just did things that I thought were right for me. You know, I made decisions I thought were right for me. And I think another thing that I was bad in being a manager, that I never asked questions. I thought that if I asked questions, people would be like, oh, this girl doesn't know what she's doing.
Right.
So I just never asked questions. But now I feel like I definitely improved on that. Like I ask my own managers questions.
Yes.
Like when I'm just confused sometimes, because I think that's okay. I always ask collaborators how they're feeling, if they need an extension, or do you want this to approach this in a different way? And I think me just being a more understanding person has helped me to be a better leader, I think.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons why you were chosen as the director. I ultimately get all the final decision making when it comes to the leaderships. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted you as the director versus the other candidates. Now, you're right. MD Zaman and Muhammad Salam were both candidates, but I wanted them to be in other roles because the role of a director, and if you remember from our leadership workshop last week, the role of a director has a certain place on the ship. It's not the one that's steering the ship. They're the ones charting the course. They're the ones like the cartographer. They're the ones mapping where we should be going. And so I felt you had the best vision in terms of all of the candidates for that. And I'm glad that you learned that there's nothing wrong with asking questions. A lot of time young people will have that anxiety or that insecurity of, if I ask a question, it communicates I don't know, or I'm a bad this, or why is she da 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 da. But that's the point. That's the point of asking questions, is to learn, right? So I'm always asking questions, and I'm, if anything, I'm at the top of the leadership, but I'm always asking you guys questions because I'm like, I don't know what the point of this is. Can you explain what the point is? Sometimes it may be misinterpreted because a lot of time it's via like Discord and in a text, right? When you're reading it, sometimes you'll be like, oh my God, Dr. French is angry. He's angry about something. But a lot of times I'm just like, well, why are we doing this? Because I want to know. And that's the same thing. And it's good to ask questions. Good to ask questions if you're a director to your higher up. So that'd be like your mentor, your executive director. It's good to ask questions to the people below you, like your managers. And it's good to ask questions to even the people below them, like the collaborators. And that is something that I always do. I don't know if you remember, Reda, when you were in 2018, you were a prototyper. Yeah. I used to come around and ask the collaborators during the meetings, oh, why are you doing this? What's the purpose of this? I did that for two reasons. One, because I want to know if you know what you're doing. And two, it was a way to see if the leaders did a good job in explaining what you were doing and why you were doing it. So it was a twofold purpose. And then if you explain something to me that was kind of like interesting, I learned something new, you know? So asking questions is the only way you're going to learn. And everyone needs to, I mean, everyone listening here and everyone else in the world needs to know that learning is the way to, I don't know, just improving yourself, improving your team and your communities and people around you.
I remember one time you asked me the question of like, well, what are you doing? And I explained it. And I said afterwards, oh, I think I explained that wrong. And you were like, why do you think you explained that wrong? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know how to speak. I just felt that way like often. Even going into being a manager, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's okay. In the early days, like when I was a mentor, I'm still a mentor, but when I was first mentoring at the time, the robotics club and then the FRC team, I honestly did not know what I was doing in terms of mentoring. I knew how to, do the programming and doing the machine work and doing the CADing. I knew how to do those things, but I really wanted to be hands off because the mentoring that I really wanted to do was kind of not what Cody had did like 2 years ago of like figure it out, not that. But it was, I want to be there to facilitate and guide, like suggest. And that worked for a few years. But what I found out was last year, I needed a more hands-on mentoring approach, So a lot of times we blame who, like, oh, the engineering department failed last year and whose fault is that? And like maybe the managers blame the collaborators, directors blame the managers blame the directors. I may blame the collaborators, whoever, right? Whoever's to blame. Like I also feel responsible because I was doing the same type of mentoring that I had been doing years prior, but that I realized was there were different leaders, like Freddie wanted to be a mechanical engineer, so he became the mechanical design manager. So, and at the time Cody wanted to do programming, so he became the controls manager. So like that worked. And then the year before, those boys, when it was dominated by just boys, and it was really just Kelly and Ucha in the department as the only girls in engineering, all those boys also wanted to be engineers. And so it wasn't like, it was my job as a mentor was easy because they would do their own they wouldn't ask a lot of questions. They didn't need a lot of help. But environmental science and political science, like if that's what you want to get into, that's not necessarily mechanical engineering. At all. So there is definitely a skill gap that has to be closed. And that was something that that was one of my failures last year. So hopefully we'll see how it goes this year. And we have a super, super successful year. More successful than all the years combined.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed. We'll see how that goes with the virtual tournament, virtual competition. Hopefully the world goes back to normal,
Yeah, I see so many things happening in the world all at once, and it's just like I would just love for everything just to chill out in 2021.
Yeah. Are there any significant changes to your life besides online school? Like anything that you used to do that you can't do anymore?
I guess mainly fencing, and just athletics in general. I usually am a pretty athletic person. I like to just go outside and hang out with my friends and walk around for hours. Or when it comes to fencing, I just like stabbing people. I think it's just fun. It really lets you let out a lot of energy, but I'm unable to do that right now. I was actually, because last year I had to sort of not be on the fencing team as I was in 10th grade because, I was struggling with being a manager, so I couldn't really do both things at once. And this year I was like, I kind of know what I'm doing a little bit better, so I can manage my time so I have some time for fencing, even if I'm not a full-time member of the team. And unfortunately, I can't do that this year. So it's mainly just being active. I gained like 3 pounds over this quarantine.
Oh,
I know it's so much for me, especially. It's like so much, and I've been trying to like be more active and like lose weight, or just be healthier. I eat ramen every single day and just watch Netflix.
that's
So
not healthy.
hopefully, it's really not. So I'm like making a schedule of like getting to exercise. So I take my dog out on more walks, and I just like move around more. And sometimes like I go out with my friends, like 2 people, and we just walk in the park and talk. So it's much better than it was like in March, but that was really hard to do. I will say that for most part, I'm very introverted. So everything that I do, I like to do it by myself.
Yeah.
I just try to, everything that I need, I want to make it at home or in a safe like place.
Yeah.
So I think that's mainly it that I miss doing, because even like any kind of outdoor activities I like to do, I like when nobody's around me. So like me and my mom visited a beach and there was no one around. It looked completely empty, and I was like, this is my
That was
kind
the
of
best
place.
experience. That was, yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely
But there was
a different
also a
vibe
lot
when
of
it's
dead
alone.
animals.
On the beach?
Yes. Oh my god, I saw so many dead animals, and then my mom was like making me walk up to them, and then she was explaining what each dead animal was, and I was like, what are you talking
What kind
about?
of animals were they?
A lot of sea animals. So there were crabs, there were stingrays, mainly them. Yeah, and I was like, what is this? I actually saw something today about how the Pacific Ocean is dying, how all of these sea lions and sea turtles are just being washed up on the shore. And I was like, what am I seeing?
What do you think the responsibility is? Like, what do you think is causing that?
I think honestly, a lot of it is just pollution, because a lot of the fishermen take a lot of polluted toxins and things like that, and they go into the middle of the sea and they just dump it in the ocean, and there's no regulations on that or anything, and then all of these sea animals are dying. I think it's also partially due to climate change. Like there are so many factors happening, and now it's just being hurting the ocean, so it really sucks.
It definitely is pollution and climate change. I don't know. I can't fact check this, but I had been told that there is basically an island of garbage just floating around the Pacific Ocean that's the size of, I think, Texas. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's true.
Yeah, that's gross. I mean, I always wonder, where do we put our trash? I remember watching a Futurama episode, and New York had sent, old New York had sent like a ball of garbage into space, and then basically 1,000 years later, New York was about to be destroyed because that ball of garbage orbited, and it now is returning back to Earth, and it was going to crash into Earth and destroy the planet. So they just threw another ball of garbage at that ball to send it back out into space, and like, in 1,000 years they'll figure it out. Those people.
Oh my god, that's like the mentality of a lot of people who don't care about climate change. They're just like, I saw this like 80-year-old old woman that was like, I don't care about climate change, I'm dying in 10 years. And I was like, but I'm not dying in 10 years.
Oh my god. That's true. That is such a common human thing of like, it's all about me. I don't really care about other people. I don't really care about my grandchildren or the future. And that's unfortunate because we have so many cars on the road. I drive a car. I mean, my carbon footprint is probably really huge. And it's actually really bad when you think about it. I try my best to reduce, even like try to turn off the water when I'm brushing my teeth. Like it's such a bad habit. I have the water running while I'm brushing my teeth, but you should turn it off, you know? And like before, when, let's say I was getting the water warm or hot for the shower, I would like have it running for minutes, go do something else, and then come back. But now I'll turn it on and then try to jump in the shower immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
Just to save water, because water is another thing, that's just, it's limited, at least the amount of drinkable, clean water on the planet.
Yeah, and then a lot of people take it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I used to be like that. Like somebody, I think I was in elementary school, and this woman tried to get me to like conserve more, use less of everything, and I was like, I don't think I can do that. And now that I'm older, I was like, I should have listened to her years ago.
Yeah.
But I guess if you're a child, and then if you're not taught this in your everyday life, then you probably just wouldn't know.
Yeah, it's true. The global warming effect has really gotten worse. I remember when I was a kid, and I'm like double your age, Rita. So when I was a kid, I remember hearing about like global warming and climate change, and it was like, oh, recycle, make sure you do this, save water, make sure you do this, like just the idea of a carbon footprint and how much like the cost of a real cheeseburger, like a cheeseburger, yeah, you could eat this, but there's so much water that's used to create a cheeseburger. And I'm like, how is there water being used to create cheeseburger? Well, there's water in the factories and in transporting like the beef and cleaning the things and watering the plants and just like growing the wheat. There's a lot of water in that. Like, how much is a burger at like McDonald's? Like that $5 Big Mac, you know? So
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, I think about it a lot, and I don't even eat fast food like that. I stopped eating from McDonald's because I watched this documentary, and it was about how McDonald's like kills its animals, and I got so terrified. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I don't like watching those types of documentaries where they show. I mean, it's kind of important because it's a side of the meat industry that no one really thinks about or they try to ignore. It's like the humane treatment of animals, and that in itself is even interesting to think about. Like to treat animals humanely, which I guess like is important, but at the same time, do we really care? Yeah, we should care because like we're humans. We should be treating like there should be some ethical treatment of animals, especially the ones that we let's say farm and use and raise. So it's definitely like, you know, viewer discretion is advised when you watch those things because it's disturbing.
That's what I was thinking, because I saw that in my English class in 8th grade, and I was like, you're my 8th grade English teacher, why are you showing me this? But I understand why she showed it to me, but it kind of traumatized me. I didn't eat McDonald's for like 3 years after I watched that. Like, I think I had a burger with one of my friends at McDonald's probably a year ago, but it was kind of traumatizing when I saw that. But it definitely also helped influence me a lot. So I'm grateful, and it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Do you feel like the amount of naps or sleep like has gone up or decreased since 10th grade for you?
Oh, it's definitely gone up. I try to take a nap. I probably take naps 5 times a week. And then when I was in 10th grade, it would probably be once a week. So I take a lot of naps because, I don't know, I feel like my brain and my body does so much in intervals. So it's like in an hour, I can get 4 assignments done, but then I will be so tired that I can't do anything. I'll take a 10-minute nap or even a 30-minute nap, and I'll be able to do work for like another 3 hours. So I think a short amount of time of just resting helps me so much.
Do you think your diet or nutrition has changed like since 10th grade? I'm trying to see if there's a connection between how or what you eat and the amount that you're sleeping or napping.
Okay, so in 10th grade, it was kind of weird because I would have small breakfasts because I'm not a breakfast person, or at least I wasn't, because from, I would say, the middle of 11th grade and all before that, I threw up when I had breakfast, like large amounts of breakfast. I remember in middle school, it was like a problem. Every time that I went to school, it doesn't matter the portion of my breakfast, I would throw it up. So I just ate small breakfasts. I would have a tiny sandwich for lunch, and then I would come home and I would splurge for dinner in 10th grade. And then now that I'm in senior year, I sort of have even portions for everything that I eat, even though I would say like in May and like April, I don't know what I was eating. I was just eating everything. But now, and then my normal portion size is pretty much equal for every single meal. I'm a person, I do have to like, in a way, count my calories, or else I feel very anxious about what I'm eating or what I'm not eating. So that's something that I just have to do.
Do you use an app to count your calories, or how do you count them? Or is it just like in your head?
Yeah, I write it down in my diary of like what I'm eating.
Interesting. And what's your calorie intake every day, if you don't mind me asking?
It's usually around, because I don't exercise a lot, so it's usually around 1,200 calories to around 1,300 calories a day.
That's not enough.
No, it is. I Googled it because if I exercise...
Oh, you're trying to get like a caloric deficit so that way you can like lose some...
Yeah. So it's like if I'm like maintaining a constant weight, I would probably add like more. But since I don't exercise every day or sometimes at all, it's healthier to eat like around what I'm eating.
If you have here's a fitness tip. If you have, because I'm trying to get in 10,000 steps a day. My average step is about 5,800. Sometimes it goes up to 6,200. But it's recommended if you want to lose like, I think it's like 0.6 pounds a month. You should walk like 10,000 steps a day. So if you have a device that can track how many steps you take, like
I have an Apple Watch.
Yeah, perfect.
I remember it. I had a Fitbit in middle school, and I was so obsessive around it. I would get like 20,000 steps a day. I would really surpass the 10,000. My mom and my sister are actually in a competition every single week, and I feel like you would lose to them really badly. Because my mom, if she heard 6,000 calories, she would be like, I walk 30,000 steps per day.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's nothing to me. And my mom, she cheats on it. She cheats with like, because she was trying to tell me like, oh, other people cheat, so I can cheat too.
Oh my God.
Exactly. The way you cheat is like you take like the Apple Watch and then you just like slam your hand up and down and it gives you steps when you're not actually walking.
Mom.
Exactly. And I told her, I was like, that's unethical. And she's like, everybody does it. It's fine.
Does your sister know that she's cheating and she's in a competition?
My sister cheats too.
Oh my goodness.
Sometimes it's so bad.
So when you, I guess my suggestion to you is like, if you want to get some more steps in, every time you should just take Luna out for like a longer walk, and that might help. I started working out this spring, and one of the cardio things that I would do is go on a walk, and I started out with going like on a 20-minute walk. Now I'm going on like an hour-long walk. It's just good cardio for me because I don't feel like running. Running puts a lot of like stress on your bones and your joints. And I'm not trying to have like arthritis when I get older or whatever. But and also I don't want to be running. Like I don't want to get sweaty. Like, that's gross.
I actually do walk a lot. So I'm trying to like do more like sit-ups and stuff, because I walk just because I have like a lot of anxiety sometimes. So I walk because like to pace back and forth. I can do that for like 2 straight hours of just pacing.
Yeah.
Oh, my dog is barking.
Hey, Luna. She wants to go on a walk.
Yeah, I took her on a walk before this interview, and I was like, okay, you went on a walk, just calm down, go to sleep. And I don't know.
She probably heard the idea of a walk and she's like, I want to go again.
Hopefully not. She has another walk at 8 p.m., so she better calm down.
Oh, I see. So she goes on how many walks a day?
She usually goes on 2 walks a day, but if there's something like special going on, like if I have to go out for a longer period of time, I'll take her on a 3rd walk.
Okay. So Reda, we're approaching our 1 hour mark, so we're gonna cut it off soon. Is there anything you would like our listeners to know, or you want to say to our listeners?
I guess I would just say to think about the world around you, like what's going on around you more, rather than always thinking about what's going on in your personal life or even like your personal head space. So just be more aware.
Thank you, Rita. That's actually great advice. And I want to thank Reda, for joining me on episode 8 of the Patreon podcast for the Full Metal Beavers. And I want to thank all the listeners for listening to Reda's great stories and her dreams and her somewhat violent tendencies. So really appreciate, Reda, you joining me for this chat. And tune in next time for episode 9. Thank you. Bye.